So, who are you and what do you do?
Hey, David. My name's Kane Jamison. I'm the owner, founder of Hood Web Management, and I do small, medium business online marketing, but specifically my specialty is search engine optimization and high quality link building.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, welcome to the show, Kane. I'm glad to get you on here. I was watching a recent presentation by Will Reynolds at MozCon, and he mentioned you by name, pointed me to an article that you wrote, which was called "The Complete Guide to Link Building with Local Events." Thought it was a fantastic post, so I thought I'd get you on here and basically pick your brain about, exactly what the post is about and the key concepts from that. So, sound
Great.
good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. So let's see here. So the post is all about, why companies should host local events and how that kind of ties in with an overarching SEO strategy. So
Yeah.
so what would be kind of the why would a company want to be building links through local events? What are some of the kind of main benefits there?
Sure. Well, so let's put aside the event for a second. And when we think about link building, part of your goal is to match what your competitors are doing, and part of your goal is to exceed what your competitors are doing. And most of your competitors probably aren't doing events, and there's a huge number of opportunities to get your event promoted on local websites, event websites, enthusiast websites that aren't even in your local area. And there's a good chance that none of your competitors have those links. So purely from a link building point of view, that's what we're focused on. But from an event and just small, business point of view, this is a huge way to build your brand, just hosting these events and get your name out there, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a large brand like, something like REI. They host lots of outdoor events, teaching you to climb, hike, that sort of thing. So there's a huge range of things you can do with this strategy.
Gotcha, gotcha. So let's see. And you also mentioned, it's an easy way to get links on otherwise difficult domains.
Yes. Just about every newspaper site, just about every television site, a lot of radio sites, all those types of websites are difficult places to get links, but almost all of them have event calendars. So you can get a link from, in my case, the Seattle Times or the Seattle PI or any of the other bigger local places. Another thing is, as an example, like small local blogs for small businesses. They'll publish upcoming events in the area. So if you don't have anything to announce or anything to send out there, it just sounds like a commercial. But when you're announcing an event to these websites, that's something they publish because it's valuable for their readers.
Right, right. So it's like a value add there. So
Yeah.
you also mentioned, doing this and hosting events will give you those geo relevant specific links. So what
Yes.
exactly are geo relevant links, and why are they important to businesses that service a specific geographic area?
Sure. Well, just starting from a basic level, those local sites are where your local clientele are going to be. So if you're running a local business and most of your clients are close to you, there's a better chance that they're going to see you on those websites. So that's just the basic level. On a higher level, there's a chance that Google looks at, and search engines, excuse me, look at things like where the sites are located that link to you. I specifically reached out to Bill at SEO by the Sea to see if there were any specific patents that talked about the location of a website that is linking to your website and whether or not that affects it. And he didn't know of anything specifically that referred to it. But to me, the concept makes sense that if you're getting links from websites that are near you, that's going to make you look a lot more relevant for if somebody's searching for a Seattle business as opposed to just a general one.
Right, right. And that would also, help in terms of, what is it? Google Places, right? Where you're getting more and more local links. That's kind of an indicator to Google that, hey, maybe we should serve this site above the competitors, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a big focal for focus for local, along with some of the other citations and things we talked about in the article. But yeah, to me, getting links from local sites, and especially, Google can tell that the Seattle Times is relevant to Seattle. All you have to do is sign into Google Webmaster Tools, and there's a big long list of words that Google thinks your website is talking about. So if you're getting links from those sites, I'd imagine that there's a broad correlation between the topics of the sites they're linking to you being more relevant to your site overall.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha. So you mentioned a number of different types of events, in the post that businesses can do. But what are some that you've seen that have worked really well? What types of events can businesses actually put on and then submit to all these different sites and build links through?
sure. I mean, the easy answer is anything. One of the examples I used in there was like a knitting supply store, just host a how to knit workshop. Even if your owner doesn't know how to knit, host some local blogger that does know how to knit. So, I mean, that's the great thing about this is really the only requirement is that the event page is listed on your website. You don't have to be the speaker necessarily. You don't have to be the event, like physical host, the venue. Um, you can interchange almost all of those, still have a successful event, and still get the value of the strategy. So for me, for example, my personal speaking has been presentations to like the local chamber of business, the Seattle SEO network, events like that. And so that's for me getting in front of business owners. Those are great venues to do so. But honestly, the one I mentioned before, REI, hosting local events, they've got a passionate customer base membership that wants to learn more about hiking, biking, paddling, all the other outdoorsy stuff they do. And they've got probably, one or two of these events going on per week at every one of their locations. That's, a couple thousand events a year at least, if my math is working correctly for me, across their entire website. And all of these local store locations are now getting that local value and promotion as well.
Gotcha. So you mentioned that when you do speaking gigs at the local chamber of commerce or other events, so you can use this strategy even if you're not, hosting the actual event, correct?
Exactly. So the Chamber of Commerce example, most Chamber of Commerces charge an event fee, and it's $25 for members, 30 from non-members, something along those lines. And so what I've done for my events is I've got my events page on hoodwebmanagement.com/events. I've got a list of upcoming events, a list of past events, a little information and blurb about where it'll be, who it's hosted by, what the topic is, and then I just link over to the Chamber of Commerce website as the kind of the event ticket seller in a format like that. So I'm not the one hosting it. I'm not the venue. That's a whole separate one. It's being hosted at a local business center. But all I am is the speaker, but I'm the one going out there and promoting it. And so I choose to make my events page the primary page that's getting linked to on all of these event sites.
Gotcha. So let's see. So is this a one and done strategy? You put on one event and you submit it to all the different kind of local area sites, or can you rinse and repeat?
It's absolutely rinse and repeat. So let's talk about it purely from a link value. The first time you get a link from a website is probably the most value. And then from there, you continue to get value, but there's a declining rate of return, so to say.
Right.
But if there are still people finding your event every time it's listed on that site, there's still absolutely value to it. I mean, just going back to this strategy overall, it's not just about SEO and link building. That's just the angle I attacked it from. You still have to consider that if you've got links already from the Seattle Times and now you're getting new ones for your next event, there's still people finding that on the business-to-business events calendar. So it's absolutely something you can continue doing, and I believe you still get the ongoing value. But there are other things you can do to pull in more value each time, whether it's changing venues or changing sponsors. One thing like mine, for example, I've done the same presentation with one chamber of commerce and then done it for another like business organization. And so I've gotten links from both of their sites now. And for me, it's a new audience, same material in this case, but it's something you can continue doing. And yeah, I don't think there's any reason to stop doing it, especially if it's good for building your brand and you're getting clients or customers from it.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a ton of spillover benefits to, hosting these events. It's not just a pure SEO play. So if you're trying to just put on an event
Exactly.
and you don't even show up just to build links, like that's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So Yeah, and from a, just inbound marketing approach, I mean, that it's huge for brand building. Just people seeing your brand. They don't have to go to the event for them to recognize the name Kane Jamison as a speaker, or even my company, Hood Web Management. And it's good for your sponsors and your venues too. The fact that they see there's an event at this location and it's hosted by, the West Seattle Chamber of Commerce. That's good branding for your partners as well. They'll know that those organizations are putting on events. So, yeah, I don't know. There's value going on everywhere in the whole strategy.
Gotcha. Cool. So you list out some examples of just some places to get started submitting events to, like Eventbrite, and a couple others. But then
Yeah.
you dive into something that I think is even more important, and those are using
Yes.
the advanced search queries to actually find, stuff off the beaten path, let's say. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, so can you explain some of those?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things about this, I'm sure your competitors, if they're not hosting events, they're not getting links from places like Eventbrite and these other domains that are just dedicated purely to events. But there's a lot of people in your area that probably aren't looking at these generic event sites to find something. They're going to be looking at something that's a lot more relevant to them. And so that might be, a local newspaper event site. So these advanced search queries, the focus here is finding stuff that is specific to your topic, your location, and your audience. And so we've got a couple: submit an event, add an event, submit your event. Those types of queries in combination with your city is a great way to pair them. And then there's other more technical ones. I could probably list out 100, and I probably only put about 20 in the post, but thinking about all the different variations on how that might be listed on a site, and just going through, and each time you do one of those searches, you probably pick up a couple good more domains. And the first event you do this for is going to take a while. And in fact, it's probably a good activity for, an intern or an associate with your company, because there's a lot of just manual plowing through all these different searches and looking and going, that's probably a good website for us. That's probably not a good website. This is good. That's good. But once you've built up that huge list, the second time around, it's going to take half as long to go through and submit the event to all of those locations that you've already found. And so just to go back to what you said, I think these specific ones to your topic and your city are going to be way more valuable because, one, they're more relevant from a link value perspective, but also there's probably going to be real people finding your event through those ones. So you can't just stop at the generic event sites. You really have to dive in and go for the specific websites.
Gotcha. So and those are like the link submission side of the equation. You also talk about outreach.
Yes.
What are you basically talking about, blogger outreach, or what's the story there?
Blogger outreach is probably the most common one. It could be journalist outreach to get a little bit more, traditional or advanced or whatever. But really, it's just thinking about who's your audience. What are they doing that they might find out about your event? So let's say you're doing a introduction to hiking class. I like this outdoor example, so I'm going to keep using it. I'm not going to go around just to the Seattle Times and get listed in their outdoor events, because there's probably not going to be too many people finding me on that calendar. But what I am going to do is go find the Seattle hiking meetup. I'm going to go find maybe the Seattle climbing meetup and try and find some people that have those similar interests that would probably be interested in learning more about hiking and how to pack their backpack correctly, that sort of thing. So you got to think about what those people are already doing and what they're reading, especially what people in your area are reading, if there's going to be something that's specific to your area. And just reaching out to that event host, maybe seeing if they want to be a sponsor, seeing if they'd like to tell their audience about it. You don't necessarily have to get them involved. It just depends on who it is that you're reaching out to and how you want to operate your event. But just like anything in link building, the harder it is to do, the more value it probably has.
Right.
That's just how it tends to work when you're doing this manual type stuff. So those submissions are okay, but when you're reaching out to these bloggers and website owners and the harder stuff that doesn't have a submit form that you can just click a button, that's where a lot of the value is going to be, because your competitors probably aren't willing to do that.
Gotcha. So on the flip side of, like basically hosting an event, going out and building links to that event page, have you done anything with like growing inbound links by sponsoring other local events? Because that's one of I would say a legitimate way of quote unquote buying links, but you're not really. You're adding value to that.
Yeah.
So have you seen any traction there?
So I haven't done so much with it, and that before I went to write this article, I was looking around for other people that had written about link building specifically for events. And there were a couple shorter articles that didn't go too in depth, but the one thing, I saw a lot of was sponsor local events. So there's the concept being, if you are a marketing company, maybe sponsor something with the local university marketing group, something along those lines. And that's great. It's a good strategy. And you can probably get a link from the local university's website, which is a great reason that tactic's popular. But the reason I like this other tactic is you get a lot more links. And a lot of times they're just as high quality, but there's way more of them. And so it's okay to, pay for the sponsorship and stuff, but going above and beyond. So somebody that's already doing one of these, sponsoring event type of things, if they were looking to add more value than just the one link from the organization, what I would think about doing is trying to maybe provide a venue. One thing I didn't talk about in the article so much is almost all of these websites that have submit event or add an event, they've also got a button that says submit venue or add a venue if there's not one listed. And so all of these venues can get their name, their address, their phone number, and their website linked from almost all the same sites that all of these events are listed on. So if you're sponsoring an event and you've got some office space or something like that, that would be a good venue, I definitely take a look at doing that as well. And in that case, just providing the venue as a way of sponsoring the event. So you don't have the cash layout to the group necessarily. It's just opening up your space to those people.
Gotcha. So kind of setting up this whole event, doing the submissions to the different sites, reaching out to different bloggers. What do you typically see as the timeline for a campaign like this? I mean, should you be doing this a month out from the event, or as soon as possible?
Yeah. Well, if you talk about the full event process, the first thing you're doing is, planning what you're going to talk about or who's going to be speaking, where it's going to be hosted, and just in general, who the sponsor, that sort of thing is. And that sort of stuff, especially if you haven't done it before, you'd probably want to work on that a couple months out, because you're going to want at least a month or two from when you set the date to market the event, get it out there on calendars. I think most people tend to plan their, meetup calendars and that sort of thing 2 to 6 weeks in advance. So you want that much time to get that in front of people. So make sure you've got all your other event planning done before you start doing all this marketing stuff. Because the first time you go to one of these websites and submit your event, you got to know the time, you got to know the place, you got to know the location, and you better have a compelling paragraph telling who's speaking and what people are learning, and if it's a paid event, what they're going to get out of it. So I'd give myself maybe 6 weeks, 2 months, the first time I did it, and then from there, you can do it on your own. Now, the flip side is if you're trying to do this stuff for a conference or something, obviously there's probably more like a 12-month timeline. So it just depends on, trying to think of the word I want to use, maybe not scale, but, how much your audience needs to plan in advance is a big factor. So.
Right. Okay, cool. So, after all that's said and done, when the actual event is happening and you kind of wrap up the post with this, making the most from the event. So, we've done all that stuff. We've gotten a lot of the SEO value from it, but, can you talk about some of the things to actually pull in some marketing value from that, grow your list, etc.?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's, I'm glad you bring it up. A lot of the article was really focused on this promotion beforehand. And part of the reason is it's hard to promote an event that already happened. So a lot of the value here is, getting that out there before it happens. But there's a ton of value that you can get during and after the event. One thing I do during every one of my events, and usually they're free, or at least I'm not getting paid for them. There might be a meal fee or something like that. One thing I'll do is ask people, if you like this event, please reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn or Biznick, and leave a testimonial for me, either a LinkedIn testimonial or maybe one for my business on Google or Yelp. And people are happy to do it. You're providing them really affordable value for what their passion or for their business. In the case of the presentations I'm doing, so they're usually happy to leave that review or testimonial for you. Another thing is I reached out to Jonathan Coleman, another SEO at the time, anyways, and asked him what he normally does. He does a lot of conference speaking and that sort of events, and I'm not as familiar with that. And he mentioned marketing your slides, your presentations on SlideShare, things like that, and promoting it after the event. To kind of take this back to the beginning, you found out about my article through Will Reynolds' presentation.
Right.
So if you go back and look at the slide on Will Reynolds' presentation, there's a bit.ly link to the article I wrote, and it's bit.ly/local Moz. And bit.ly links, you can add a plus sign to the end. So you go to the bit.ly local Moz plus link, and you see when people clicked on it. And there's a peak right around July 20th or 25th, whenever MozCon was. And then it drops off during August. And then SEO Moz gave away the video for free on the blog.
Right.
And more people clicked on that bit.ly link when the video was released for free on the SEO Moz blog than they did in the month or two after the presentation actually happened. So there's a lot of value going on afterwards, especially in something like a slide deck or the information you're putting on there existing after the event. So one thing I'll always do is, add the slide deck to my website, give people a link where they can go find that, because a lot of people ask to pass the information on to other people. And then, there's some other smaller websites like lanyard.com and MozCon used a specific one, I can't remember, that do some event wrap up, and they'll accumulate photos and videos and tweets from an event. So you can kind of play with some of those and see if they're effective for your event as well for the wrap up stuff afterwards.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, with any event, you can definitely repurpose that content into blog posts, into all kinds of stuff on your site. So it's definitely, it's kind of a win-win all around. That's what I like so much about this strategy. It's really a holistic approach. And it's not just like, oh, you're going to get links. You're also going to like build your, domain authority. You're going to, get your word out there about your business. And then there's the wrap up stuff where you can use that as content for your site. So it's like all around. So kudos on writing this post, Kane.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Kane, where can people find you online?
hoodwebmanagement.com, HOOD. That's my primary website for my business. And then finding me on Twitter and Google+. Spend a little more time on there now lately. And I'm sure there'll be links down below in the article or something for that sort of stuff. So reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn or one of those, and I'd love to talk more about events and link building.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Kane. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah.